The Lion King is set in Africa's Pridelands, where a lion rules over the other animals as king. All the animals of the Pridelands are summoned to Pride Rock, the home of the lion pride, as dawn breaks. Rafiki, a mandrill, walks through the herd and up Pride Rock to greet his friend, King Mufasa. Rafiki is led by Mufasa to his mate Sarabi, who is holding their newborn cub. Before presenting the cub to the assembled animals, Rafiki anoints him with fruit juices. The animals applaud before bowing to the new future king. Meanwhile, Mufasa's younger brother, Scar, is sulking alone behind Pride Rock. He is jealous of his brother's position as king and is disappointed that he will never be king now that Mufasa has an heir. Mufasa and his majordomo, a hornbill named Zazu, question Scar about his absence from the ceremony that morning. Scar scoffs his new responsibility to show respect to the future king and walks away, claiming he had forgotten. Rafiki is seen in his tree home, adding details to his newest piece of wall art as monsoon storms drench the Pridelands. He finishes with a light chuckle, reciting the new cub's name, Simba. Simba, now a young man, wakes up early one morning and begs his father to get up and show him the lands he is destined to rule over. Mufasa shows from the top of Pride Rock that everything the light touches is their kingdom, except for a sliver on the horizon. Mufasa tells Simba that he is not allowed to go there. Mufasa tells Simba on the plains that there is a balance to all life that eventually comes full circle, the circle of life. When Zazu arrives with a morning report, Mufasa seizes the opportunity to teach Simba how to jump, much to Zazu's chagrin. As Simba prepares to try again, Zazu exclaims that hyenas have been spotted in the Pridelands. Mufasa rushes away to deal with it, while Zazu returns Simba to his home. Simba returns to Pride Rock, where his uncle Scar is rumored to be lurking. Simba boasts about his destined role as king, to which Scar responds with disdain. Scar casually asks, provoking Simba's excitement, if Mufasa showed him the shadow location on their morning walk. When Simba says no, Scar says it's a dangerous place where only the bravest lions go. Simba perks up, proclaiming himself brave, and begs his uncle to tell him what's inside. Scar pretends to slip his tongue by revealing that it's an elephant graveyard, but praises Simba's cunning. Scar smiles to himself as Simba reassures him and leaves, knowing full well that Simba's curiosity will get the best of him. Simba runs into his friend Nala while she is being bathed by her mother, Serafina. He tells her about a cool spot he discovered, lying to Sarabi that it is near the waterhole. Sarabi agrees to let them go as long as Zazu joins them. Along the way, Simba and Nala come up with a plan to get rid of Zazu. They then flee, Nala demonstrating her skills as an expert pinner before arriving at the elephant graveyard. Zazu reappears unexpectedly and demands that they leave. Simba displays his bravery by laughing in front of a massive skull. Laughter can be heard from within, and 3 hyenas emerge to surround the cubs. Shenzi, Bonsai, and Ed discuss what to do with the cubs, specifically how to eat them. For a brief moment, the cubs and Zazu escape, but Zazu is dragged back and stuffed into a boiler, which propels him into the air. Simba attempts to roar after the hyenas corner the cubs in an alcove. He is told to try again by the hyenas, who laugh. Mufasa appears and attacks the hyenas before they flee, eliciting a loud roar. Simba tries to say something when Zazu reappears by Mufasa's side, but Mufasa furiously reprimands him for being deliberately disobedient and leads them back home. Back in the Pridelands, Mufasa instructs Zazu to take Nala home while he instructs Simba. Simba approaches his father, fearful and meek, and notices that his father's paw print is much larger than his own. He apologizes for disobeying but claims he was just trying to be brave like Mufasa. Mufasa tells Simba that he is only brave when necessary. As they reconcile, Mufasa tells Simba that all the stars in the night sky are the spirits of past kings and that they, like him, will always be there to guide him. Back in the cemetery, the hyenas lick their wounds and argue with one another. Scar, who is welcomed as a friend, breaks up their fights. Irritated that the hyenas couldn't get rid of the cubs, he devises a plan to depose both Simba and Mufasa from the throne. The next day, Scar leads Simba through a gorge and places him near a sapling-shaded rock, telling him that Mufasa has a surprise for him. Scar tells Simba to stay put while he goes to find Mufasa. 3 hyenas lie in wait just above the gorge in front of a massive herd of wildebeest. Scar appears above them, signaling their presence. A chameleon climbs down from the tree as Simba scowls over his little roar. Simba practices roaring at it until he can let out a roar loud enough to scare the chameleon and reverberate off all sides of the gorge. But the ground starts shaking and Simba looks up to see the herd of wildebeest charging down the gorge straight for him. He flees, the wildebeest gaining on him, while Scar warns Mufasa nearby that there is a stampede in the gorge and that Simba is down there. Simba manages to grab a broken tree and raise himself above the horns of the wildebeests while Mufasa climbs down and runs alongside the animals. He manages to catch Simba in his mouth and carry him to safety before being dragged back by the charging animals. Simba watches his father leap onto the side of the gorge, digging his claws into the dirt and struggling up the hillside. As Mufasa approaches the summit, he notices Scar standing over him. He begs for help, but Scar digs his claws into his paws, mocks him, and pushes him away. Simba stands helpless as Mufasa is trampled by the stampeding herd. Simba dashes down to find his father as the dust settles. He discovers him dead beneath a fallen tree. Scar appears as he mourns his loss and blames Simba for what happened. Simba, believing he started the stampede that killed his father, follows Scar's advice to run away and never return. Simba flees as Scar orders his hyenas to kill him. Simba is pursued by 3 hyenas to the edge of an incline, where he falls into a sea of brambles. Simba, who is small enough to avoid the sharp spikes, runs through them as the hyenas come to a halt near the base. Bonsai is pushed into the brambles and emerges howling, entangled in thorns. The hyenas watch Simba run into the distant desert and decide that he will most likely die, warning him that if he returns, they will kill him. Scar returns to Pride Rock to announce that both Simba and Mufasa were killed in the stampede and takes over as king. The lionesses are terrified as a swarm of hyenas arrives at Pride Rock to live alongside Scar. Rafiki looks on sullenly from a distance, smudging the image he once created of Simba. Simba has collapsed in the desert due to the heat, and a swarm of vultures has descended on him. A meerkat and a warthog charge in, bucking and kicking them away as part of their favorite game, bowling for buzzards. Pumbaa, the warthog, then discovers Simba and brings him to the attention of Timon, his meerkat companion. Timon is initially terrified of the young lion, but Pumbaa assures him that he is still young and will grow up to be on their side rather than devouring them. Timon scoffs at the idea before coming up with his own. Simba is picked up by Pumbaa and carried into the shade, where he is revived. Simba thanks them for their assistance before departing. Timon and Pumbaa pity him and tell him that whatever happened to him, he must put his past behind him, citing their motto Hakuna Matata, no worries. They then invite Simba to join them in their jungle paradise as a fellow outcast and teach him to eat bugs rather than meat. Simba gradually improves and matures into a healthy, carefree adult. Meanwhile, Scar's rule has reduced the Pride Lands to a wasteland. Scar lies around chewing on bones while Zazu is confined to a bone cage singing. Zazu mutters under his breath that under Mufasa, he never had to do this. Scar recoils at the name, citing that it is against the law to mention Mufasa's name. Shenzi, Bonsai, and Ed appear, complaining about the scarcity of food and water, as well as the lioness's refusal to hunt. Scar suggests they eat Zazu as Bonsai slips Mufasa's name before correcting himself in front of Scar. Scar then ignores them. Simba, Timon, and Pumbaa lie down together in the jungle after a meal of bugs to gaze up at the night sky. Timon explains to Pumbaa that the sparkling lights in the sky are fireflies that got stuck in the big, bluish-black thing. Pumbaa claims to have always believed they were burning balls of gas billions of miles away, a theory Timon debunks due to Pumbaa's flatulent nature. They inquire as to Simba's thoughts. He says he was once told that the lights are great kings of the past watching over them. Timon starts laughing at the thought of royal dead guys watching them, but Simba walks away, saddened by his father's memory. He sighs and collapses onto a clump of wildflowers, their petals and leaves flapping in the breeze. The wind carries them back to the Pride Lands, where Rafiki grabs them from atop his tree. He returns them to the tree, sniffing them and pondering the apparent familiar smell. Simba must be alive, he realizes suddenly. He quickly smears a mane around the head of his Simba drawing, declaring that it is time. Pumbaa becomes distracted by a large rhino beetle while walking through the jungle with Timon. Hungry, he pursues it to the edge of the jungle, where it is perched on a log facing some grassland. As the beetle flies away, his eye catches something in the tall grass. Pumbaa screams as a lioness appears from the grasses and pursues him. Timon comes running when he hears Pumbaa and finds him stuck in the roots of a tree. As the lioness approaches, he tries to free Pumbaa. She leaps forward, but Simba charges in and starts fighting her while Timon cheers him on. He tries to knock her down, but she flips him over and pins him down. This move reminds Simba of an old friend, Nala. When he reveals himself, Nala is both surprised and relieved to see him again. Simba introduces her to Pumbaa and Timon, who is not pleased with the reunion because Nala tried to eat Pumbaa. After Scar told them about the stampede, everyone in the Pride Lands assumed Simba was dead. Simba, who is nervous, asks what else Scar told them, but Nala says it doesn't matter now that he is alive and the rightful king. Simba excuses Timon and Pumbaa so that he can speak with Nala alone. The romantic settings encourage their feelings for each other as they walk through the jungle together, though Simba is hesitant to tell Nala about his past. She tries to persuade Simba to accompany her back to the Pride Lands, telling him that everything has fallen into disarray since Scar ascended to the throne. He refuses, explaining that he shouldn't be concerned about about what happened in the past, which infuriates Nala. She tells Simba that it is his responsibility to return to the throne, but he storms off and walks out of the jungle into an open field. He tries to rationalize his decision before yelling at the night sky that Mufasa wasn't there for him and feeling solemn that it was his fault. He then hears singing from behind him and notices Rafiki in the branches. He walks away, annoyed. Rafiki follows him, asking him rhetorical questions and chanting seemingly incomprehensible words. When Rafiki reveals that he knows Simba as Mufasa's son, Simba turns to walk away, convinced that the baboon is insane and confused. Rafiki then flees, and Simba follows. He comes across Rafiki meditating on a rock and inquires about his father. "I know your father," Rafiki says, to which Simba responds that he died. Rafiki laughs and leads Simba through a thicket of trees and vines, proclaiming that Mufasa is still alive. They come to a halt near a reflecting pool, and Rafiki instructs Simba to investigate. Simba initially sees only his reflection, but upon closer inspection, he notices an image of Mufasa. As a large storm cloud appears overhead and a specter of Mufasa speaks out to Simba, saying that he has forgotten who he is and that he must take his rightful place as the true king of Pride Rock. Rafiki says that Mufasa lives within him. Simba begs his father to stay, but the apparition vanishes, echoing Simba's need to remember who he is. Rafiki hits Simba over the head with his staff as he considers the message and the change in the winds. Simba, outraged and in pain, asks what he did that for. Rafiki says it doesn't matter because it happened in the past, but the past still hurts, and one can either run from it or learn from it. He swings his staff again, and Simba ducks before grabbing and tossing it. Rafiki then cheers as Simba runs away, announcing his intention to return. Nala approaches Timon and Pumbaa while they are sleeping and nudges them awake, frightening them at first. She inquires whether or not they have seen Simba, but Rafiki appears overhead and declares that the king has returned. Timon and Pumbaa, perplexed by this statement and Rafiki's mysterious arrival and departure, listen as Nala tries to explain that Simba has decided to return to the Pride Lands to take his place as king. Simba arrives in the Pride Lands after crossing the desert, only to find it dark and barren. When Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa appear beside him, he looks at Pride Rock with a vengeance. They all agree to assist Simba in reclaiming the throne, though Timon is unimpressed by the landscape they're fighting for. They sneak over to Pride Rock and find it infested with hyenas. Simba offers Timon and Pumbaa as live bait, and they put on quite a show for the hungry hyenas while he and Nala get closer. Simba orders Nala to rally the lionesses while he searches for Scar. He comes across him at the base of Pride Rock, calling out for Sarabi. As she approaches, Scar interrogates her about why the lionesses refuse to hunt. Sarabi explains that the herds have moved on and that the only way for them to survive is to leave Pride Rock. Scar refuses, and when Sarabi compares him to Mufasa, he hits her cruelly. Simba, having had enough, appears on a ledge and runs down to comfort his mother. Scar steps back, fearful that Mufasa has returned, but when he realizes who it is, he shoots a venomous glare at Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed. Simba confronts Scar, demanding that he step down from the throne or fight, but the cunning Scar questions why things have to end in violence and says he would feel terrible if he was responsible for the death of a family member. Though Simba claims to have put the past behind him, Scar wonders if the lionesses have done the same. When Nala questions this, Scar instructs Simba to reveal who is to blame for Mufasa's death. Unfortunately, Simba admits that he was, albeit by accident. Scar takes advantage of this and accuses Simba of murder, leading him all the way to the edge of Pride Rock, where Simba hangs by his paws. As Scar looks over him, lightning strikes and ignites a fire beneath him, remarking that this is exactly how Mufasa looked before he died. Scar then grabs Simba's paws and whispers in his ear that he was the one who murdered Mufasa. Simba, enraged, leaps over the edge and pins Scar, choking him into confessing the truth to the lionesses. Fighting breaks out immediately between the hyenas and the lions. Timon and Pumbaa enter the fray with their signature bowling moves, while Rafiki wows with some acrobatic martial arts. Pumbaa comes to Timon's aid when he is cornered by Shenzi and Banzai in the lion's den with Zazu, his rage sparked when Banzai accidentally calls him a pig. Scar manages to flee the fighting, but is pursued by Simba. They meet at the top of Pride Rock, surrounded by flames, where Scar begs for his life, claiming that he is family and that the real enemy is the hyenas. The hyenas growl and retreat after hearing this. Simba relents, saying that he is not like Scar and instructing him to flee and never return. Scar walks past him meekly, but sends a pile of embers into Simba's face, temporarily blinding him. Scar then attacks Simba, sparking a fierce battle. Scar knocks Simba down and leaps at him, but Simba flips Scar over the edge of Pride Rock using the technique Nala had mastered in her pinning. Scar falls down the rock face and crashes to the ground. He stands up groggily and notices the hyenas approaching him from between the flames. He greets them as friends, but they respond that he called them enemies. Scar is horrified as they lick their lips and surround him before attacking. As the rain begins to fall, Simba returns to the lionesses to greet his mother and Nala. Rafiki shakes his staff and points to the top of Pride Rock. He bows to Simba, who hugs him and says it's time. Simba ascends Pride Rock, gazing one last time at the heavens before letting out a mighty roar and sealing his position as king. As everyone watches and the rain washes away dust and bones, the lionesses join in the celebration of their new king. Sometime later, the animals of the Pride Lands reassemble at Pride Rock to cheer on Simba and Nala as they gaze over the kingdom. Rafiki steps in between them and displays their newborn cub to everyone. Thanks for watching. If you love movies and want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Till then, see you on the next video.